Hi folks, Josh Clark again. In this recording, I'm going to go over general considerations that go into citing best management practices into landscapes. Please remember that not only is each site different, but so is each BMP. Even though each site and each landscaping practice is different, there are some general rules that can be considered. In this recording, I'm going to be discussing some of those basic considerations. Typically, rainscaping practices should be sited 10 feet from foundations of structures, as there should not be any chance of stormwater affecting the integrity of the building. Stay away from the drip line tree roots of trees. Rainscaping practices should be sited outside of the line that you could draw from the farthest out branch of a tree straight to the ground. That is known as the drip line roots of the trees. These roots are the most important part of a tree's root system and should be protected at all costs. They should not be disturbed through the installation of a BMP. Rainscaping practices should also be sited away from utilities, as we've discussed before, both private and public. This way, there is no way for an installer to harm them when they're putting the project into the ground. And if a utility needs to be worked on, the rainscaping practice won't be disturbed. With rainscaping practices, it is best to think about how water enters the practice, what happens when it is there, and how it gets out. Typically, the inlet is how water gets in. This can be a singular pipe that has collected stormwater from the practice's drainage area, or it can be the overland flow that flows directly into the practice. Typically, this inlet will have a way to slow the water down before it enters the practice. This is known as energy dissipation and is meant to slow the force of the flowing water to a point that doesn't cause erosion. When stormwater is in the practice, there are multiple ways that it gets treated. In some practice, simply holding the water in place allows sediment and other pollutants to settle out. In others, layers of soil and gravel clean stormwater as it flows through. Yet in others, plants' roots take in pollutants from the water and into their biomass, cleaning it in the process. All BMPs have some way to treat stormwater, making it cleaner than it was before it entered the practice. Finally, water needs to be able to exit the practice. Most of the time, this is done when, after it has been treated, it can slowly infiltrate out into the native soils below and around the practice. This can also be through a perforated pipe known as an underdrain that empties out and away from the practice after the stormwater has had a chance to be filtered. But sometimes in heavy rain events or rain events that are larger than what the practice is designed to treat, water needs to escape quickly. Some practices will have emergency overflows or outfalls that allow for this to happen. This protects the integrity of the practice from being overwhelmed. To really dive into the individual considerations and constraints of stormwater BMPs, it's a good idea to review the WSA Rainscaping Manual, which can be found on our website here. It goes into a little bit more depth than the Rainscaping Field Guide, which you have a hard copy of. This concludes this recording. Remember that each BMP will have their own considerations, and that always leads to questions. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need help.